My name is Gary Kindi, and I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. So what am I doing here, and what do I really want to say? Is that this world has got to change its way. See, I'm going to battle for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm going to fight for the ones that can't fight back. And I'm talking about all the creatures, from the water to the sky. I'm talking about all the issues, from the truth to the lies. And I'm going to make my stand with a paper and a pen. If you want to argue that, go back to bed again. Because you're never going to win against what I stand for. So sit down, shut up, and listen as I give you my grand tour. I'm going to target the corruption in the government. I'm going to target the poison in our environment. And I'm going to target the injustices to the people. I'm going to hit every target or I won't keep still. And I'm going to battle the battle of the battle. I'll shake up the cage until it rattles. Because you're never going to get rid of me. Not until the problems of the world are cut out the knees. You know what I'm saying? Let me kick this out one more time. So crystal clear is the message in my rhyme. My name is Gary Kindi, and I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. I'm going to fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm going to fight for the ones that can't fight back. So let's keep passing around our information so we can improve this planet through education. Somebody's got to make the people aware. Someone's got to make everybody care. So pass my message on if you dare. And whether it's mine or yours, we all got to share. Because there's more power in one man's voice than all the weapons of military choice. So with my voice and your voice, we can shout out loud that we belong to the human race and that we are proud. You don't have to be a master of science to see that we need to create a worldwide alliance in order to approach the corporations that's asking people for their insubordination when they bring up what's happening to our waters and what the disease is spreading through our slaughters. And what about the government officials who stand behind them with their backdoor handshakes and verbal deals to bind them? We have seen how the world can be devastated through the actions of men with minds of hatred. Look at Hitler, Charlie Manson, and even Osama. These are the men who caused us trauma. These are the men who caused us trauma. Then we have cops with the hookers in the backseat. We have the punk-ass teens knifing each other in the streets. We have drug dealers hooking up kids with crack. Well, there's a lot of shit in this world that's just whack. We have people who stand up for their rights and get shot down. Well, you better batten down the hatches, because we're heading into the next round. And there's no getting through a war without losses. Lenin, King, Kennedy, and Gandhi are all on symbolic crosses. Speakers of the past are going to inspire the speakers of the future. And we're going to try to heal this world with a metaphorical suture. Now my name is Gary Kindi, and I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. But I won't be able to move this world all alone. So just remember that this is also your home. So if I put my voice with your voice and we shout together, why people are going to hear us and things are going to get better. Done it. Peace.
Sekoli. Bonjour. Hello. My name is Gabor Stas, and I would like to welcome you to Kensington Village Association's virtual Indigenous Solidarity Day event. Kensington Village is located close to downtown London, right on the banks of the Antler River. Our association, which we call KeVA for short, was formed in 2015. Since then, we have created food forests and a community garden, planted pollinator gardens, organized summer concerts, took part in Indigenous sunrise ceremonies, solidarity days, and orange t-shirt days, and hosted all sorts of community gatherings with fun, food, and laughter. We are committed to putting unity in community. For more information, please write to Kensington Village Association at gmail.com. And check out our Facebook group called KeVA Community and Wood Street Park Food Forest. Miigwech, Yako. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Galbraith. My adopted Haida name is Kataya. I recently moved back after nearly 20 years away and settled here in Kensington Village. I am grateful for the privilege of living here on the land, including the water and the air that belongs to the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenapehoik, and Attawandaron peoples. I am beginning to relearn the history of this place, including the treaties, as we all have a responsibility to support a renewed relationship with Indigenous peoples. I have the honor of introducing our elders, Dan and Mary Lou Smoke, who have generously agreed to share their wisdom and teachings with us today in a pre-recorded format. Mary Lou is Ojibwe Nation from Batchewana on Lake Superior, and Dan is Seneca Nation from the Six Nations Grand River Territory. They met in the early 70s and were married in a traditional Haudenosaunee wedding ceremony in 1977 and have been happily married for 43 years and are proud parents and grandparents. Since 1990, they hosted the Western radio program called the Smoke Signals Original Peoples Radio Program, interviewing Indigenous advocates from across Turtle Island. They have also worked as journalists for London CTV and have adjunct professor positions at Western University. They have won several awards for radio and TV and academic honors throughout their esteemed careers. They are frequently called upon to teach Indigenous protocols and ethics and perform Indigenous ceremonies. Mary Lou is also a traditional and contemporary singer and recently was inducted into the Forest City London Music Hall of Fame for Lifetime Achievement in 2019. Thank you, Miigwech, to you, Dan and Mary Lou.
Hey, bonjour. Asanyenes Kwayan Dejnakas, Makwai Dodam, Batchewana Bay Jinjaba. My spirit name is Shooting Star Woman. I'm Bear Clan. I originally come from Batchewana Bay, Ontario, which is on beautiful Lake Superior. I'm very honored to be here to share some of the teachings I've learned throughout my lifetime. And most of that time I've been walking beside Dan. Dan and I are going to celebrate 44 years of marriage this summer. And we've been together for about 5 years before that, because that's what the hippies did way back then. We all lived together. So we both had a desire to learn the teachings of our people. When I was young, the teachings weren't available. So when Dan and I got together and decided we wanted to learn, they say when the teacher's ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And as that happened, teachers were coming to us. We were finding them, or we would go and travel to visit them. And so we were sitting with them, learning from them. So this is my husband, Dan, and he can introduce himself.
Where I come from, we say Sego. So Sego, Asanyenes Indishnakas, Kildare Dodam, Six Nations Grand River Dinjaba. Senino e Squatahas Kitpontanwa Quahase. Shall we say Dodakwa? Oskada Nagohas, Oida Hanahas. I'd just like to say greetings in my language. That's the Seneca language. My name is Asanyenes. I come from the Six Nations Grand River Territory. I'm a member of the Seneca Nation, and I'm a member of the Kildare family, Kildare clan, we call them. So I'm very happy to, I'd just like to say in my language, well, are we doing the opening now?
Yeah, we should speak for the water first and then the prayer.
Oh, okay. I'm going to let Mary Lou speak for the water.
We've been taught that in our customs and traditions, the women speak for the water. When we're conceived in our mother's belly, we are surrounded by water, and that water protects us as we grow and develop. And when it's time for us to be born, that water cleanses the way, and we come out into the world, and we need pure, clean water to survive. Women are in harmony with the water, and women are also in harmony with the moon. Every 28 days, the moon shows her face, and every 28 days, a woman has a purification cycle. So we always speak for the water. Water is the lifeblood of our mother, the earth. We have ceremonies every month when the moon is full. We gather around a sacred fire and we sing our songs and we offer our tobacco to the fire like Dan and I did at the very beginning. And We say prayers to the fire, but more importantly, we acknowledge yourself as women and our special connection to the water and to the moon. And so we always make an offering of the water. It always goes first to the spirit and to the fire and to Mother Earth. We're going to sing a song. This song is called the Water Song, and we would like to teach you this song because water is very important. It's very important that we take care of the water for the next 7 generations to come, so the children will have water and our grandchildren will have water. So all the people before us did this. They taught the children the songs and the teachings, and so that's why we're here to help teach you. So this song is really simple to learn, but if you can't remember it, you can go to YouTube and key in my name, Mary Lou Smoke, and I'm singing a couple verses of it on YouTube. So this is called the Water Song. So your assignment is that you have to teach this song to one person younger than you and talk to them about the importance of the water. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Now that was pretty simple, right? So let's try the second verse. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey 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 ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey 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 ya, hey. Now we're going to sing the last verse like our life depends upon water. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey 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 ya, hey. Whoa, Matakawasan. All right. All my relations.
No way.
Sigoli swagwag. Galahundi niyo get. Wagi sliwagi. Niwa katalodan. Yonya da ag ngwehe wenege. Yanko, you go donlos. Ani, bojo, dante, okinapi, how. What I said is my name is Clouds Passing Over, and I'm a member of the people of the Standing Stone First Nations of the Thames, and I belong to the Bear Clan. And thank you, friends. Welcome for joining us. I want to say yonko to Gabor Sass for introducing the KeVA community, to Lindsay Galbraith for the land acknowledgement, and to Dan and Mary Lou Smoke for our opening ceremony. Lastly, but not least, I want to say yonko to you, the viewers, for joining us today, for taking time out of your lives to be here and share in our celebration of culture, tradition, and music. Now, Before we start, I wanted to take a moment to go over something that you may have seen happen all the time and wondered about it. We have essentially four primary medicines that we use on a regular basis: tobacco, cedar, sweetgrass, and sage. You may have seen some of them being used during our gatherings and ceremonies and may not know what we are using or why we are using what we use. And I wanted to give a short overview, first of all, for that so you understand that part of our tradition. So the first medicine, tobacco, is an offering medicine. You always lay tobacco down when picking other medicines to say thank you to Mother Earth for providing us what we need to survive. So that means if you're going to pick cedar, if you're going to pick sage, you're going to pick sweetgrass, before you actually pick the plant, you always lay down tobacco as a way of offering and saying thank you. The other use for it is we use it for during our sacred fires to carry our prayers to the Creator. So when there's a sacred fire, you take the medicine and you put it into the fire with your prayers while you're saying your prayers, and then they get carried up to the Creator. And another use for tobacco is an offering to an elder. So if you speak with an elder and they are teaching you, you ask them for advice or you ask them for a teaching, and at the end of your conversation, you generally will offer tobacco to them as, again, a thank you and a showing of respect for their time and their knowledge. The second medicine we use is cedar, and it can be used in the fires, much the same way as tobacco, to carry prayers, but it's also used to line the floors of the sweat lodges. And so if you ever go to a sweat lodge, basically the ground will be between you and Mother Earth. It can be used as a healing bath. So you put it in the water of your bath and soak in it. And thirdly, it can be used in teas, a cleansing tea for drinking. Now, it is a medicine, and so like most medicines, it's not going to taste sweet. It's not a delicious make by the gallon and drink by the gallon type thing. So don't expect that it's going to be a great tasting drink. It's meant for cleansing, and it's meant to clear all the toxins out of your body. Sweetgrass is known as mother's hair, and is usually braided as such, the same way as you would hair. And it's used for prayer and for smudging. So you burn the sweetgrass and you use the smoke to smudge yourself with it. The purpose of the sweetgrass is used to draw in positivity and to bring in good energies from the environment around you. Now, sage, the strongest medicine of them all, on the other hand, is used to push out negativity and to clear your thoughts of anything that troubles your mind. Sage is also in some of our cultures known as the woman's medicine for its strength. So when women on their moon time, they do not touch any of the other medicines besides sage during this time, because women are at their strongest, and touching other medicines just weakens them. And so sage is the one medicine that is strong enough to be touched by women during their mood time. And so kind of give you an idea, this is sage. So that's, if you can see it, that's what our sage looks like. And this would be our cedar. It's a green leaf bits of our cedar. This will be our tobacco, and used as an offering medicine. And this one is our sweetgrass. As you can see, it's braided as we would normally braid a person's hair. And this is just a small one, because these actually, you notice they're all kind of small packages, and we create these small packages because this is comes in a kind of a personal care kit, so that we use it. It's only used as an individual, much like the stuff that we burn it in. We always try to burn our medicines in something that's from the earth, and so that it's organic. And so we'll use something like this, which is just basically a shell, and we put our sweetgrass in here. We light it and smudge. When we're doing actual ceremonies, we'll use something larger, so something more, a shell more like this, because we'll need enough medicine to go around the circle of people. So today, I'm just going to use the small one for now. And when I take it out of the package, anytime you take medicines out of the package, you always use your left hand out of the container, because the left hand is the hand that's closest to your heart. And you want it to be close to your spirit and your emotions when you're handling the medicines. And normally we will also use wooden matches for lighting, just as again, a way of using something from the earth. So I don't happen to have any wooden matches with me today, so I'm going to use a lighter, which we don't normally use, just so you're aware. But we'll use one today just for the demonstration. So when we light it, basically what's going to happen is the medicine is going to smoke. And when it smokes, you're using that smoke as the cleansing. So you always brush it over your hair or your head, and so you get positive thoughts running through your mind, and flush out all the troubles that bother you. You brush it over your eyes. So whenever you see things, you see the good in them. You see the positivity in them, and so that you're not troubled by everything that you see. When you run it over your mouth, it helps you to speak without telling falsehoods. We always want to be truthful in whatever we say, and so when we're in a gathering, you always want to ensure that everyone in a gathering is telling things truthfully, and that nothing comes out of them that is a falsehood. And this helps kind of align people with what they say. And then you brush it over your ears. When you brush it over your ears, basically helps you hear good things. It helps you hear the positivity. Even if somebody is saying something which seems like a criticism, you can always take something out of that criticism that is a positive or a learning experience to use in the future. And you rub it over your heart, because you always want to feel good things. And so that's going to be another one of those things where it helps your spirit. And so that's what we do when you see these going on in ceremonies, and you'll probably see them in the movies as well. But in real life, that is what the purpose of the medicines. So that's kind of that overview. So today is Solidarity Day. And 1982, the National Indian Brotherhood, which is now known as the Assembly of First Nations, first suggested establishing a National Aboriginal Solidarity Day as a day of recognition. In 1990, Quebec became the first province or territory to actually establish June 21st as a day to celebrate Indigenous culture. National Aboriginal Day, now known as the National Indigenous Peoples Day, was announced in 1996 by the then Governor General of Canada, Romero LeBlanc, through the proclamation declaring June 21st of each year as a National Aboriginal Day. And as of today, Northwest Territories and the Yukon both designate June 21st as an official stat holiday in those provinces. Now, the last year has been a very crazy year for us, for everyone across the world. with the pandemic resulting in isolation, loss of work for some people, and loss of family and friends for others. And just recently, the remains of 215 Indigenous children found on the property of a former residential school in BC. So now the latter offers us an opportunity for awareness. And I suggest people read the 94 calls to action that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission presented to Prime Minister Trudeau in 2015. Also, it would be good to read the report on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls report and the inquiry that wrapped up in June of 2019, so that you understand some of the dealings in the news that you hear in the media with the negotiations between First Nations and the government to create true reconciliation. So in the meantime, we did receive the blessing to play the following song in honor of the 215 children that were found at the residential school, as well as residential school survivors. This song is going to be, was written by Juno Award winner Murray Porter and his partner Elaine Bomberry. And they wrote this song about 1 week after Prime Minister Stephen Harper apologized to the Indigenous people for what the Canadian government has done to them. So this is Murray Porter.
I want to share this song I played earlier today, and this is what the Salmon Run was about this year, about reconciliation. And without truth, you can't have reconciliation. So this song I wrote, my partner Elaine and I wrote 1 week after Stephen Harper apologized to our people for the things they did to us. He said he was sorry. And everybody's sorry too, and I appreciate that. But is sorry enough? And this is the people had passed on, and they get no remuneration. And what does a few dollars really do? What we need is healing. What we need is counseling. What we need is truth before we can reconcile. It's called Sorry Enough. Now you say you're sorry. It's not what you say, it's what you do. You tell us you'll do better, but it's hard to believe in you. The day has finally come. Told the world that you were wrong, but far too many have passed on now. When you're sorry enough, took away our children, stole our mother's love, laid waste to our traditions. Wasn't that enough? Separated from my culture so many years, so alone, with no mothers and no in a world so far from home. Come to you with another language and pioneers when you spoke your native tongue. They're trying to kill our spirits here, but our hearts still beat as one. They took away our children, stole our mother's love, laid waste to our tradition. Wasn't there enough? Hey, Yahweh, hey, Yahweh, hey, Yahweh, hey, Yahweh, I love you, yeah. I wasn't born to be here. The city's not my home, not my native land. But now the streets are so familiar. This is not what our mothers planned. Took away our children, stole our mother's love, laid waste to our traditions. Wasn't that enough? And when will it be enough? When is sorry enough?
Yonko, Mary Porter, for that song, is sorry enough. We shall all remember. Abigail Echo Hawk is a storyteller, poet, artist, and member of the Pawnee Nation. She writes about being a survivor of sexual assault and healing, sometimes from a place of deep trauma, sometimes a place of joy and healing, and sometimes from a place of deep anger. She has shared a poem with us today for me to read in honor of the 215 children that were found in the property of a residential school in British Columbia, Canada. When they buried the children, what they didn't know. They were lovingly embraced by the land, held and cradled in the mother's heart. The trees wept for them with the wind, and they sang morning songs their mothers didn't know how to sing, bending branches to touch the earth around them. The Creator cried for them. The tears fell like rain. Mother Earth held them until they could be found. Now, our voices sing those morning songs with the trees and the wind. Light sacred fire, ensure they are never forgotten as we sing justice. Abigail Echo Hawk. I thank Abigail for allowing me to share that poem with her blessing. Now, the next performance we have, Should be a real treat for some of our Twitch friends and followers, as you may not have seen this side of our next performer. Twitch users will know him as Fab Feline, and those of you watching via Facebook will know him as Nathaniel. Nathaniel will be entering his 4th year at Western University in London, Ontario, working on his degree in music performance. Today, he is treating us to an original composition he calls Themes and Variations in G minor. Nathaniel. Yanko for that, Nathaniel. It is greatly appreciated. Now, it's obvious that not all Indigenous musicians are limited to traditional music. Hence, our next performance, Dawn Red Sky, is one half of a sister duo called Blackwood Honeybees. Dawn and Shauna are Anishinaabe Irish and on a mission to educate people through their music. Earlier this year, Dawn was in the spotlight as an up-and-coming rising star by the Home County Music Festival organizers. So giving us 3 of her original songs, this is Dawn Red Sky.
I'm a danger to myself and to others. Slap me out of this, slap me around under the covers. Well, that used to be me, I used to be on the stand. Now I'm a witness, now I can say I was bad. What can I say? That's just the way I was. What can I do? except better choose who to love. I was a liar, I was the fool, I'm a lover. Hold me accountable, take me to trial, make me suffer. What can I say? Those were bad choices, I know. What can I do except to move on and to grow? You know me, I know I still crave some temptation. For the flutter, for the heat, for the blissfully sweet sensations. And what can I say? That's just the way I was. And what can I do except better choose who to love? What can I say? Those were bad choices, I know. And what can I do except to move on and to grow? 'Cause I am a danger to myself and to others. Stir crazy, what do you think I'm signed for? Stir crazy, you know you are the one I adore. Even if I had the chance, I'll try to leave the best in the past. Stir crazy, sometimes I just feel so changed. Stir crazy, I know it's only me I can blame. I made a promise I must keep, and just between us, don't wake up Stir crazy's got the best of me. My mind is drifting, thoughts are at sea. And even if I had the chance, I'd try to leave the best in the past. Well, I don't think that I can go much farther, and I don't think I'll escape this swamp water, 'cause the tide has swept you away from me, and I know it's my destiny.
Yanko, Don, for those performances. Again, we appreciate your contribution to today's event. For those who are interested, those songs in the order that they were sung were called Danger. Second one was Stir Crazy. And that last song was Swamp Water. Next, we have a few words from the Muncie Delawares of the Thames Chief Mark Peters. Mark Peters has become not only a chief, but an excellent historian of the indigenous peoples of this area. And so he's going to give us a little bit of a history lesson in Solidarity Day. So here he is, Chief Mark Peters.
Good day, everybody. Pinji Kiel, welcome on behalf of the Muncie Delaware Nation to Solidarity Day, June the 21st, 2021. Ndishinzi Kike Mark Peters here at Nalahi, the Muncie Delaware Nation on the Thames River, or the Deshkanzibi in southwestern Ontario, Canada. And I've been asked to say a few words, comments in regards to Solidarity Day this year, June 21st, and thought I'd make a few comments which might last 10, 20 minutes at the most, but I've ended up with 7 pages of notes, so we might be going a little longer than that, and it's because I want to, I guess, express my views and understanding of what this means to myself at least, and how we can understand why we have this day from my point of view at least. I'm not saying it's everyone's way of looking at it, but I've been studying our Muncie Delaware Nation history for quite some time and providing live Facebook sessions on it for some 45 hours now, and we've gone through the 1600s and 1700s and come to see the experiences of our nation and other nations from the time of contact and even before that up until the present day. And I'm just going to maybe talk a little bit about some background and how we've come to be where we are at right now on this day, June 21st, 2021. The First Nations have been around a long time here on Turtle Island, and right from the beginning, thousands and thousands of years ago. We once were and are becoming again very vibrant, healthy, independent, and self-governing peoples. We were once responsible for vast areas of land and resources provided to us by the Creator. In Muncie understanding, that's known as Kishalamokwang. And like all First Nations and on Turtle Island, similarly, we all had a duty to thank the Creator for this bounty of land and resources that were provided to us, and to treat each other with kindness and charity. It's a basic way of living that we all have shared across this island. And to live according to certain principles known in this area as the 7 grandfather teachings of love, honesty, respect, truth, courage, humility, and wisdom. Very basic and yet very important principles to guide us through our lives. We welcomed people into this country and helped them to survive and establish themselves in friendship and according to these principles. And many of these people that came here were very good people, and there always have been and still are very good people that we've developed with relationships with over this long period of time. However, there were others, those with all the power really, who had their eyes on making friends with us at first, but only with the goal of eventually betraying us and stealing our lands and resources. Disease, massacres, murder, alcohol, war, and other factors reduced our population significantly, while colonial populations flourished and left us somewhat vulnerable. Yet we continued to, I better check my sound here, I guess it's good. Okay, it looks good, sorry. We continued to survive and maintain our ways of life, our culture, traditions, and ceremonies, even into the present times, despite incredible odds against us. We sided with the British through the 7 Years' War, what's also known as the French-Indian War, the American Revolution. We sought their assistance during what's known as the Indian Wars, and allied again during the War of 1812, and even the Fenian raids of 1837 and 1838, where the Munsees and Chippewas sent some 50 men to guard the western gates of the city of London, just down the road from us. Thanks for the note that the sound is good. Someone's listening on this day. Thank you. But, we established and maintained an alliance that we thought would be upheld and honored after there was no more need for our involvement in wars between Britain and their various enemies, such as the French and then the Americans, and then even the Fenians. In World War I and World War II, even the Boer Wars in the late 1800s, in Korea and Vietnam, and even we have had military men in military and women in military service up until the present day. We've continued this alliance and honorable relationship during all of this time. And it is no exaggeration, really, to say that if it were not for our alliances and our sacrifices made during these wars, and particularly the War of 1812, that there would not even be a country known as Canada today. Yet, when there was no more need for our use as allies, colonial governments in Canada began to take hold, and all of our past alliances, our honorable relationships, began to be forgotten or ignored. Our lands continued to be taken in dishonorable and fraudulent ways that Canada is just over the past few decades been trying to make right through the land claims process after courts have forced it to do so. As a way to continue to take our lands and resources and to diminish our power to maintain our ways of life, colonial governments began to make laws to do this. And I'd like to thank our member, Judy McCallum, for providing me with this information just today to help me go over some of these laws that Canada developed to do this. In 1857, a law was made, an act to encourage the gradual civilization of the Indians. And I've spoken at length in previous history sessions just how civilized we really were at the time of contact. Again, the bountiful resources, the beautiful lands and beautiful people that we were described as, and our ways of life, the fact that we were not war-like people during those times, had our own governments, our own systems of education, and all these other things that enabled us to have good, healthy, and long lives. A very beautiful civilization, really, although we didn't have the technical kind of civilization that the Europeans had developed, mainly to make war on each other. Ships and castles, cannons, guns, and weapons of all sorts. That's the sort of civilization that we didn't have, or the kind of capitalist civilization to make money for oneself and to not share it with others. So laws were made to somehow encourage us to become more civilized in this other sense. In 1859, another act towards civilization and enfranchisement was enacted. And enfranchisement was a way to pay Native people to join into or assimilate into the non-Indigenous culture. In post-Confederation times, our Prime Minister John A. Macdonald said that it was time to do away with the tribal system and assimilate the Indians. Again, to get rid of us as far as being independent and self-identifying people. And this was not much different than the legislation offered up by the Trudeau government in 1969, known as the White Paper, which I will talk a bit more about down the road here. In 1869, another law was passed to provide for the enfranchisement or assimilation of the Indian people. And in 1876, the Indian Act, as we know it today, was passed, which was an act that set out how the government was going to control us and tell us what we could do or not do in every aspect of our lives. And that act still exists today. In 1881, a law was passed to prohibit the sale of agricultural produce by Indians. You know, a form of economic genocide in a way to prevent us from competing with non-Indigenous people in farming and other activities of economic independence. Laws were made to prevent us from being able to sell the things we grew to outside sources. At the same time, local fairs in this area, because we were such good farmers and competed in local fairs and won prizes on a regular basis, created what was known as an Indian category, so we couldn't compete against non-natives anymore. We could only compete amongst ourselves, a kind of racism that was quite apparent in those days. In 1884, a law was passed to force the attendance of Indian youth in schools. And it's not like we did not want to have our people educated. I talked before how even in the 1700s, even in the 1600s, we sent people off to school, even universities. And in the Susquehanna areas, we asked for help with reading and writing and all these education skills that we thought would be useful to us. And here in Muncie, one of the first schools in Upper Canada was built around 1820 and had 16 of our people in it during that period of time. And even the Mount Elgin School here, which later became a residential school, was first a joint venture by local First Nations and the government to provide industrial and other educational opportunities to our people to be able to operate both in our own traditional ways and in the non-Indigenous society that was forming around us. It later turned into something much different. But it just shows that we made serious attempts to involve our young people and even our adults in education and to learn many of the ways of the non-Indigenous society. But in 1884, we were forced to attend these new types of schools, which became known as residential schools. In 1884, there was a law passed to prevent what's known as potlatches out on the West Coast, to prevent people from taking part and having their own ceremonies that they've been practicing for many years, and even prohibiting dances within our communities. And in 1895, there was another law enacted to prevent certain ceremonies and other dances again, and especially where money or goods were given away. Laws to prevent us from sharing our wealth amongst each other and giving it away. Again, this sort of capitalistic civilization that they were trying to force upon us. In 1905, there was a law made to remove Indians from reserves near towns where there are 8,000 or more people. And then in 1911, another law to allow for even local towns, the province, railways, all these other bodies to actually expropriate our land and just take it for their own purposes. In 1920, again, this law was made mandatory to send children to residential schools, to ban the hereditary ways in which we appointed chiefs and counselors and other important people in our nations and communities, and to ensure that we did it through this elective process instead. And as well, again, forcing upon certain people what they call involuntary enfranchisement, not just if you want to, but forcing people to assimilate even further again. In 1927, a law was passed to prevent Native people from making legal claims, such as land claims and other civil types of claims against government bodies. And other laws were passed in between then, and finally in 1969, with the Pierre Trudeau government, came what's known as the White Paper, a law to finally simply get rid of the reserve system as we know it here in Canada, and to force everybody into the majority of society to move into towns and cities. Again, this was all laws really meant to find a way to take our land without having to purchase it or obtain it in any kind of fair way. By getting rid of reserves and Native people, all of a sudden all this land would become available to these rich criminals, basically, who wanted to get it and use it to make money. In 1970 or so, actually in response to the White Paper, our own people, our leaders at that time, and other organizations of First Nations began to get together and oppose this White Paper of Pierre Trudeau's Liberal government. And things started to roll a bit, and we started to hire lawyers who were able to stand up for us in court, and hearings and legal decisions were made regarding our legal claims to land and other rights. And courts began to say, actually, we do have these valid claims and rights that the government has been trying to illegally take away from us during the past 100 or more years. In 1982, based on the efforts of our leadership before and during those times, even in this local area, we were able to get enacted into our Constitution a law recognizing and affirming our existing Aboriginal and treaty rights. Now, the word existing is the important catchphrase in that particular part of the Constitution. Canadian government officials required that word to be in there, thinking that all of our rights had been extinguished by this time, and they really didn't amount to much. However, through various court cases going into our Supreme Courts, it was determined that, in fact, there were many existing rights that we still had, and that we had been treated very much unfairly in many ways by the Canadian government up to that point. Around this time, what's known as devolution began to occur. The federal government started to allow us to take more control over finances that they were in control of previously, programs and services that we could provide to our people that were provided by them previously. And eventually what's known as inherent rights came onto the table, which became much more expansive than these existing rights in the Constitution. The rights to self-government, the recognition that we always had been self-governing people. We had our own forms of government, our own ways of education, our own kind of social welfare, and all those things that were part of our past ways of life, our culture, traditions, and some ceremonies. The only thing that the government seems to be quite hesitant on recognizing these days is our economic right, our right to be economically dependent. When it comes to money and sharing in the wealth of this country, it seems there's still a bit of a significant resistance to that. And along with these changes, this recognition of existing and then now lately inherent rights, more exposure has come to the fore regarding our past treatment by these laws that I had just mentioned, and especially regarding residential schools, survivors of what's known as the 60s scoop, and day school survivors. Apologies have been made to all of these groups, and compensation has been made to somehow rectify the harm made by their experience in these areas. Reconciliation has become the policy of government, which by definition means basically a mutually respectful relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, including government. So it seemed like, well, the apology's been made, the money's been provided, and now we're looking at reconciliation, a mutually respectful relationship. However, it's quite hard to accept some of these things by many people due to this long and harsh past treatment, and there's a continuing mistrust of government, even though there may be genuine efforts by government to truly apologize and reconcile these past differences. It appears that the Canadian public, at least, on a statistical research survey basis, if not the governments also, want to be open to learn and understand these past injustices and truly find a way to support First Nations rather than to disregard us, as has been done in the past through the education system and the Canadian government way of doing things itself. We've been neglected to, in the history books and all the other aspects of the education system, but now things are changing in that regard also. So like I say, compensation, apologies, reconciliation, things are looking kind of good. People want to understand and learn more about these things. But then suddenly and recently, discoveries have been made of numbers, hundreds of bodies, remains of children that were found buried at various residential schools across this country. And it has caused us to take a second and even more serious look, perhaps, at the issues surrounding these schools and the impacts they have had on First Nations over many decades. It appears there were some 150,000 children who were forced to attend these schools, to be punished for trying to speak their own languages, prevented from learning their culture, traditions, and ceremonies, and resulting in broken communities, broken families, and broken individuals. And because of this, it resulted in what's known as the 60s scoop. Broken families, broken communities gave social workers the reasons to come in and say, well, you can't take care of your own children, so we're going to take them from you and place them in non-native families. And in addition to that, it's more of an assimilation, part of the assimilation policy also, which caused significant damage to our children, our people as well. Some 45,000 children were apprehended during the 60s scoop, I have learned from one of our own members who was one of those people. And even after the 1960s, these taking of our children from our homes has continued, and even until today, although local children's aid societies are trying to find ways to resolve these issues and work with us to find our own ways to deal with these problems and to prevent them from happening. And yet, the abusers, again, compensation and apologies and understanding and education and reconciliation is all very good. But when you think about it, the people who did this abuse, and even murder in some cases, in many cases we don't even know why children died, they've gone unidentified to a certain extent and unpunished in any way over these years. And there's a cry for justice, in a sense, especially based on recent events, that, that's just enough is enough. Let's find a way to get some justice for these children whose remains have been found, and also those who even continue to live after the experiences they have had. Many of these individuals responsible were employed at these schools, and churches, governments, even police forces, and others directly involved or who turned a blind eye to everything that was happening. There was a vicious systemic racism that maybe not so bad today, although it still exists in some obvious and even subtle, very often in more subtle ways. It is just not clear the causes, like I say, of so many of these deaths. Why did so many children die? It's not quite clear. And these need to be investigated, not just finding their remains, but investigation into the reasons for this. I just saw a post today from a friend, Darren Jacobs, at Alanapawi-Lakawit in Moravian Town, who provided a list of describing some of these murders by, I hate to say it, but church officials and employees of these schools, and which were reported to the police but never investigated, and sort of suggest not only criminal negligence, manslaughter, murder, but even a criminal conspiracy to cover much of this up. So, and this is as late as 1969. So, and even some of the families who made efforts to find out what happened to their children, it appears, were threatened by the police to prevent them from looking into these issues any further. So you wonder how justice can be achieved in this situation. Apologies and money, I don't think really does it in light of these recent discoveries especially. And I think, even though the government has provided of Ontario $10 million to investigate the grounds of these schools and to try and find the remains of more of these children, that's surely not enough either. And I think it's really necessary to identify who these abusers and actually criminals to an extent were, and even murderers, it appears, from eyewitness stories about these things that happened. If any of these people are still alive, they need to be held accountable, either in criminal court or maybe even through our own indigenous forms of justice, which probably aren't quite so harsh. They need to identify and apologize to each of these individual children and their families. And not just a general apology, but an individual and family apology might be a good start. The government needs to provide resources that we need to continue and to enhance our efforts to provide safe and culturally relevant help to the many people, families, and communities that are still affected significantly by all of this. There's a need for justice, for public awareness and education and healing regarding this past treatment if we are to continue on towards what might be called meaningful reconciliation. These recent discoveries open old wounds, and maybe not so old wounds. They cause anger, sadness, frustration, and all kinds of emotions that are really not very easy to come to terms with. Yeah, we need to find a way to deal with them without letting them take over and making us have to live with them. On this day, it seems important to find a way to stand together in solidarity with each other in our communities and with our brother and sister communities, and even with all Canadian people who had flags lowered and expressed their sympathies across the country when these events were revealed a couple of weeks ago. I drove down from Perry Sound through the back roads and towns all the way to where I am here on the Deshkanzibi, and I can say, from what I saw, all flags were down everywhere from the citizens of this province and likely this country, having sympathy and showing their support in this way. So I just want to wish everyone hope and healing on this Solidarity Day of June 21st, 2021. And I'm just going to say Anishik, and I hope everyone is able to, again, stand together and look forward into the future and yet find a way to deal and heal with these injustices from the past. Again, Anishik, and have a good day.
Yonko, Chief Mark Peters, for your history lesson. That was great and truly appreciated. We are near the end of our event, and so we'd like to wrap things up with a closing ceremony. So it's time to bring back Dan and Mary Lou Smoke. Mary Lou will do another traditional song, and Dan will do some closing words. Once again, I want to give a big yonko out to all of you viewers who have shared some time with us today. It is imperative that we provide opportunities for learning and awareness to everyone. So if there's anything you'd like to see on the Everything Indigenous stream, any particular questions you have about our culture, our history, our traditions, or even our music, please throw me a message in my Discord or pop a message in the chat and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, welcome back, Dan and Mary Lou Smoke.
In the Haudenosaunee way, we always do the closing in the same tradition, in the same vein as we do the opening. So I'm going to conduct and say a closing. Senillo e squatahas que continua koha se jawise doda kwa oskada nagohas o ida henahas. Grandfather, grandmother, hear our sacred thoughts. Hear our sacred prayers as we bring our good minds and our good thoughts and our good intentions into the circle here as we close this session. We want to acknowledge this beautiful Wanislio that we've been blessed with. It's great for this filming scene that we're doing here. It's always good when it's nice and overcast like that. The best light of the day. Anyways, I just want to acknowledge Mary Lou spoke for the water, sang for the water. I want to acknowledge the water, all the life that lives in the water, all the life that lives on the water, all the swimmers, for they help to take care of the water. And the water is that feminine sacred element of life that is still following her sacred instructions in providing life for all creation. Nothing would survive without the water. So we want to give greetings, give thanks that for the water, grandfather, grandmother, so be it in our minds. We also want to acknowledge our Mother Earth. Our Mother Earth is that other feminine sacred element of life that all creation needs in order to survive. We want to acknowledge the crawlers, the four-legged beings, the two-legged beings, us human beings, the plants, the medicines, the rocks, the minerals, the trees, all the life that lives in the trees, all the life that lives on the trees, for they are part of an interdependent, interrelated, connected life support system that continues to take care of our Mother the Earth. And as I said, not survive without our Mother the Earth. So she is still following her sacred instructions. Grandfather, grandmother, so be it in our minds. We also want to acknowledge our Father Sky. Our Father Sky is that breath of life. He continues to breathe that life into all creation because nothing would survive without our Father Sky. So we want to give greetings and acknowledge the sacred work of our Father Sky. We also want to acknowledge our eldest brother, the Sun. Our eldest brother, the Sun, represents fire. And our eldest brother, the Sun, begins his journey across the sky in the eastern door. And he travels across the sky to the western door. And as he travels across the sky, he provides us with heat and he provides us with light. So we want to acknowledge this sacred fire that's been lit, because this sacred fire is related to the eldest brother, the Sun, providing us with heat and providing us with light. So we want to, grandfather, acknowledge this beautiful work of the eldest brother, the Sun. He's still following his sacred instructions, and nothing would survive without our eldest brother. We also want to acknowledge our grandmother Moon. Our grandmother Moon looks after all female life, and every 28 days she shows her face. And when she does, the grandmothers and the women come out and do ceremony for her and acknowledge her and give thanks for the sacred work that she continues to do right up until today, because nothing would survive without our grandmother Moon. So this I'm not sure what moon this would be. Would we be in the pink moon? I think we're still in the pink moon, eh? Yes. Yeah, we're still in the pink moon. It's also the moon for seeds and for planting. So we want to acknowledge this sacred time of the year, because we are within the rhythms of the cycle of this next cycle of creation. So we want to give greetings, give thanks that our grandmother Moon is still following her sacred instructions. She still shows her face every 28 days, and she's still following those sacred instructions. Nothing would survive without our grandmother Moon. We also want to acknowledge the stars. They remind us when it's time for us to conduct ceremony. So we acknowledge the stars. We acknowledge the thunder beings. The thunder beings are here. Their job was to wake up the earth, shake it awake, so that everything would know that the next cycle of creation is about to begin. So we want to acknowledge the work that the thunder beings do, and they are going to continue to work with creation by bringing the purifying rains that gives Mother Earth a drink and gives purification to all of creation. So we want to acknowledge our acknowledgement of the thunder beings. So we also acknowledge the four protectors, the four celestial beings who look after all spiritual matters, our spirit helpers, the angels, we call them. We also want to acknowledge Sagwayo Dizo, Kijemenedo, the creator, the maker of our bodies, for nothing would survive because she has designed it in such a way that we don't need anything. We don't need to go anywhere else to find everything we need because it's right here and we don't have to go anywhere. So we just have to give thanks and it will keep coming back. And that's what we're doing here today. And we're acknowledging that in this ceremony. So I'm going to let Mary Lou, how do you want to close? O Great Spirit, okay. O Great Spirit.
Whose voice I hear in the wind.
And whose breath gives life to all the world.
Hear me, I come before you, one of your children.
I am, yes.
I am small and weak.
I
need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise that I may know the things you have taught my people, the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength not to be superior to my brothers and sisters, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as a fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame.
All
Homatakiwasan.
my relations. Daneto, hi hi.
Bamapi.
Bamapi, Wapan.
Sigoli swagwag, Galahindi neo gets, wagi sli wagi, niwaka doloda, dionida ungwehuanege. Again, hello friends, hello everyone. My name is Clouds Passing Over, and I'm a member of the people of the Standing Stone First Nations, and I belong to the Bear Clan. For those of you on Facebook, you already know how to reach me. And for those of you here on Twitch, you can get alerts whenever I go live by hitting the follow button if you haven't done so already. Everything Indigenous stream happens every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And throughout the week, you may even see me here trying to survive in QC, or Quake Champions. Now, I'm going to roll some credits for today's participants in case you think you may have missed something. And for those of you here on Twitch, if you hang around, you can make suggestions as to who we should raid after the credits are done by posting it into chat. And after the raid, we'll go to one of those streamers. But first, here are the credits.
You don't know how sweet I am. You don't know how sweet I am. I am what I am, and I am sweet. You don't know how sweet I am.
Yo, check this. I might not be what you want me to be, so you might not see what you want to see. But if you got a minute, listen to what I gotta say, cause it's a brand new year and it's a brand new day. See, there's a gap between my culture and the life that I lead, so some will call me an apple, and some a bad seed. They have no idea how my heart will bleed. Their words and attitudes are things I just don't need.
You don't know how sweet I am. I am what I am, and I am sweet.
You see, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Those ones spreading racism, they're just fucking dumb. Now if you're looking at my life, and you say I've assimilated, to simplify things, just a little more complicated. See, I'm a modern day native, with a modern day life. I have modern day problems, and modern day strife.
Siguli, Sigo Ani again. This is Galahindi Neo Gets. I appreciate everyone for having popped in and joined us today, and I hope you enjoyed that. Um, I do have a set schedule for every Saturday at 4 p.m., but obviously you can tell that every once in a while I throw in a random stream here and there throughout the week when something comes up. And so that was yesterday's Solidarity celebration stream that we had run. And some people got parts of it, some people saw a lot of it, and some people missed it altogether. So I just thought I would do it one more time to allow those who missed any part of it to be able to view it again or catch the parts that they may have missed. So for those of you who popped in again, I always appreciate your support. It's um, it's just great. And I'm a new streamer, so I understand that this whole process is a bit of a learning curve. So if there's any kind of hiccups along the way as we go, I hope you'll be patient and understanding with me as we work through them. So I didn't see any suggestions in the I didn't see any suggestions in the stream as far as who we should raid. So I'm going to just pick someone here, and the person that I'm picking here actually is someone that has raided me actually twice already. So I'm going to go to the Academy Impossible. So if you all come over with me, that would be great. Just to share in the support because they've supported me, and so I just like to pay back and share back with them again, support when I can. So I will see you all next time, and I again um, appreciate your support. And bye for now.